Let's forget politics for a moment tonight, shall we? Because thousands of delegates have converged here in Nairobi, which is Kenya's capital. You can pretend you didn't see that for a moment, will you? Just about as you're about to have this important conversation on matters climate change. And the reason I'm telling you to forget politics for a moment is because those delegates are converging for the 6th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly right here in Nairobi, specifically in Gigiri. Now, a lot has been happening. This is the 6th session, meaning there have been 5 previous sessions before. What does this mean, especially for Kenya and also the African continent? Tonight, we will be having a conversation on UNEA 6, specifically adaptability and sustainability, to help us converse and unpack what will be coming out, as well as the expectations of this 6th assembly. I will be joined in studio by Gerens Mutual. He is plastics campaigner at Greenpeace Africa, as well as Eliud Mutahi. He is a forestry expert. Remember, President William Ruto is the chairperson of the AU Commission on Climate Change. The country has also hosted has hosted the Africa Climate Summit last year. We have seen the COP, the Conference of Parties, this year entering its 29th year. It will be held in Baku, Azerbaijan. However, here in Nairobi, a lot will be happening, and we shall be seeking to find out and tell you what this is especially for you. By the way, are you aware of what is happening in Nairobi regarding UNEA 6? We would love to hear from you as we welcome you to this wonderful to this broadcast on this wonderful Monday, the 26th of February 2024. We have a lot lined up for you. My name is George Maringa. Rhoda Nyamai is assisting on sign language interpretation tonight. But first, here are the top stories. Tonight, the boys and girls in blue benefit from a significant pay rise starting this July. Preacher, politician, and real estate investor Kikuu released on bail after denying 12 charges of fraud.
A, the accused person may be granted a bond of Kenya shillings 20 million.
And
there is a serious crisis at the coast. The leadership is quiet.
War on drugs in focus as Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua tours Kenya's port city of Mombasa, a major gateway of drugs in the region. Our SMS lines are open. 22047 is where you can channel your feedback from. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, as well as your question or feedback regarding the program tonight. On the social media handles, I am at George Maringa _ use the hashtag Daily Report. You can tweet on X, formerly Twitter. You can also tweet to, or rather post to, at TV47 News. We thank you for joining us. As I informed you, Rhoda Nyamai is our sign language interpreter tonight. By the way, she says my sign name is George Maringa. The boys and girls in blue are set to benefit from a 40% salary increment to be implemented by the national government starting July of this year. This is according to Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo, highlighting that this move is among the prioritized reforms recommended by the former Chief Justice David Maraga-led task force on police reforms. Moiga William opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
Good news to the boys and girls in blue as starting this July, a 40% increase in their salary will be hitting their accounts. This comes as government confirms the new pay hike, which is part of the 600 recommendations which were submitted by the David Maraga-led task force. Speaking on the subject, Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo revealed that the government had prioritized some of the reforms in the Maraga report that will be implemented immediately.
There has been ongoing discussions to address the gaps that are there, particularly within the National Police Service and the Kenya Prison Service.
The PS was engaging development partners further revealed that part of the reforms as proposed by the Maraga Task Force will be rolled out gradually, indicating the Kenya Kwanza government is keen implementing transformative reforms so as to enhance service delivery in the National Police Service.
We've been able to break down those recommendations and prioritize what needs to be implemented immediately, what needs to be implemented in the medium term, and also what will take 2 to 3 years to actualize. And while at it, we have also been then able to isolate a few of those recommendations that would require policy guidance.
While receiving the recommendations of the task force at State House last year, President William Ruto committed that among the recommendations, including a pay raise of 40%, would be implemented in the next 3 years, adding that security services faced serious challenges that required urgent and comprehensive reforms.
There are engagements towards improving not just the infrastructure, but also capacity building of the officers that work with us within the ministry.
Father Omolo indicated that the government, in collaboration with development partners including the United Nations, has embarked on institutional reforms and improvement of infrastructure in the police and prison department. Moige William, TV47.
Thank you, Moige, for that. You caught me going through some of your feedback. Elizabeth Nyawira saying you're watching us from Kabati in Murang'a County. Thank you for your patronage and keep it TV47. I'll be going through some of your feedback as the show progresses. Ekeza Sacco founder David Kariuki Ngari, alias Gakuyo, has been released on a 10 million shillings bail by the Chief Magistrate Ben Mark Ehubi, and this is after denying 12 charges preferred towards him. Gakuyo is also expected to surrender his passport to the court. Gakuyo was charged with the conspiracy to steal 1.5 billion shillings from its members, or rather from members of the Ekeza Sacco. He has also obtained over 8.5 million shillings by false pretense.
I know that the prosecution do not oppose bond or bail, save for those conditions that Mr. Kinyanjui on behalf of the DPP has enumerated. I've also noted the counter-argument or rejoinder by the defense team, by Mr. Njiru, Mr. Bamboleo, and Mr. Njagi, and Mr. Omari, of course. So I'll grant the first accused person bond or bail in the following terms. A, the accused person may be granted a bond of Kenya shillings 20 million, a bond of Kenya shillings 20 million with 2 sureties of a similar amount. B, alternative to A, is that the accused person may be granted a cash bail of Kenya shillings 10 million, so a cash bail of 10 million shillings, and then he'll provide 2 contact persons. Yeah, so 10 million Kenya shillings with 2 contact persons who will be examined by the court. And the further directive is that one of the contact persons must be an employee working with the government or public office. And then the C, the first accused person to deposit his passport as a prerequisite for being admitted to bond.
Now, with the coastal region ranking as among the worst hit areas in drug and alcohol abuse, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua today arrived in Mombasa County to lead a special meeting on the war against illegal alcohol and drugs in the country. At a session that brought together stakeholders from various security departments, politicians and drug control authorities, the state, through Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki, announced a tougher approach against drug dealers in the region.
The coastal region has been highlighted among the most affected areas by drug and substance abuse, as well as high cases of illicit brew consumption. The coastal counties contribute about 13.9% of alcohol users in the country and 43% of all abusers of drugs, such as heroin and cocaine. Mombasa County leads, followed by Kwale, Kilifi, and Lamu. Recently, the Deputy President declared a new war against those operating the illegal business, citing that alcohol and drug abuse has contributed to the increase of crime rates in the country, the spread of diseases, whereas leading the loss of productive youths in the economy.
We therefore cannot afford to leave the people of this region behind as we transform Kenya.
we must transform Kenya together. But they cannot do so with high crime rates. Most of these challenges are directly linked to high rates of consumption of alcohol, drugs, and substance abuse.
Gachagua also noted that most leaders from the region have remained silent about the issue, urging them to become involved and provide solutions.
Watoto wanakufa, they are zombies. There is a serious crisis at the coast. The leadership is quiet. Why are some not here? This is a very important conference.
CS Health Susan Humicha backs the war against drug abuse, adding that the spread of diseases by people using unsafe methods, such as shared syringes, has cost Kenya's health ministry.
Last year, as a ministry, we spent a whole 75 billion shillings on management of HIV. Your Excellency, 75 billion shillings. If we did not have HIV in this country, that can build for me over 1,200 health centers at a rate of 70 million per health center, Your Excellency. So this issue is bigger than just that individual who is taking alcohol or abusing drugs.
On the other hand, Interior CS Kithure Kindiki has declared a war on drug criminals, promising tough actions against them.
Just like terrorism and other serious crimes, we must act and act fast. We will not wait for the law to be amended. We'll apply what is there now. And all the other discussions about legality, legitimacy, we can have them when we have saved the nation.
Security officers who are in the pockets of the drug cartels are also under sharp scrutiny, according to the Inspector General of the Kenya Police, Japheth Koome, who proposes an amendment of the licensing law to include strict policies that would control the selling of alcohol.
And from today, wenzangu, let your presence be felt. From today, let me start getting returns every morning on how many barons have been arrested, whoever it is, whatever status of the society, ni kurushwa kwa land cruiser nyuma, ayo mengine utaongea baadaye.
On Friday, the Interior CS and the Deputy President are expected to announce new strategies to be taken by the government towards the success of the war against illicit brew. Paul Monio, TV47, Mombasa.
Thank you, Paul, for that. A Nairobi businessman has been charged with forging mineral export documents. Kelvin Otieno Onyango is accused of forging a mineral dealer document and passing it off as a genuine document issued by the Ministry of Mining in order to conduct illegal business. He faces 10 other counts of forgery, all involving shady mining deals. Onyango pleaded not guilty and was released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings.
Intend to defraud without lawful authority or excuse made a certain document, namely mineral dealers in brackets trading license registration number MBL/TDTL/2024/044 for cargo care freight forwarders purporting to be a genuine document duly issued by the Ministry of Mining, a fact named to be false. Kelvin Otieno Onyango, is it true or not true?
Now, looking at the charges, as we make this application, we are not in any way belittling the charges, even though they don't hold any monetary value in them. But we are urging Your Honor to exercise your discretion in favor of this accused person in granting bail on terms with alternative cash bail. When his place of abode is now known, he was arrested at his office, which is now known to the investigating officers. They also know his place of abode. He's a young Kenyan, a young family who totally depend on him.
To a story that will be shaping the conversation later on tonight. The 6th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly, that is UNEA, commenced at the headquarters of the United Nations Environment Programme in Nairobi on Monday. Soipan Tuya, the Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary, saying that the participation of over 5,000 delegates from the 193 United Nations member states is expected in this session. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
UNEA 6 kicked off at the United Nations Environment Programme headquarters in Nairobi on Monday.
I declare, after this clapping, open the 6th session of United Nations Environment Assembly.
Spanning 5 days, UNEA 6 stands as one of the world's paramount decision-making bodies concerning the environment, aiming to foster harmony between humanity and nature.
We had 5 successful sessions that have gaveled over 90 resolutions that have spurred action on critical important issues, from biodiversity, health, to financing for development, plastic pollution.
Addressing the Assembly, Cabinet Secretary for Environment Soipan Tuya disclosed that over 5,000 delegates from the 193 United Nations member states are slated to participate in the 6th session of the UN Environment Assembly.
I am very honored and privileged to have the opportunity to welcome you to Nairobi, the global environment capital.
Highlighting the relevance of the meeting, CS Tuya emphasized the current global threats posed by pollution and waste, as she underscored that the discussions will build upon the outcomes of the last year's Africa Climate Summit.
UNEA 6 comes at a time when the world is also called upon to accelerate the implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda if we are to stay course on sustainable development. Unfortunately, for millions in the developing regions of the world, including here in Africa, poverty still remains a reality, a daily reality, while economic inequality is increasing globally. It is against this backdrop that the world will be looking to us here in Nairobi this week to renew hope. And hope we must provide as we consider the 17 draft resolutions guided by the overall theme of UNEA 6.
Every 2 years, all 193 UN member states gather to collectively tackle critical environmental challenges confronting the planet. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
And that story by Chichi Josephine, of course, forms the basis of our conversation tonight. Gerans Mutual, as well as Elid Mutahi, will be here in studio, experts in this field, to further deliberate and discuss the expectations and what to anticipate, especially this year after UNEA 6. Clean coffee production has dropped by 6% in the last year, despite advancements by the Office of the Deputy President to increase exportation of the preferred variety to choice destinations. This is according to the Coffee Directorate, who say that coffee auctions have equally dropped in value by $100 million within the same period, after even concerted efforts to increase smallholder farmer involvement in the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. And as Hibak Said now reports, local consumption is now being highlighted as a new frontier in increasing the popularity and carving out a niche for Kenyan coffee, which ranks 17th globally in total world coffee production.
Smallholder farmers control about 75% of the total acreage under coffee production. This contributes to around 70% of the national annual production of clean coffee beans. This translates to about 30,000 metric tons of the more than 48,000 metric tons of clean coffee produced in the last year.
We just fell slightly. This year, 48,648 metric tons. That is a slight reduction of 6.1%. This was attributed to adverse weather, which was realized in the central region and eastern part because of the CBD, and also the biannual cyclic nature of coffee in its production.
A significant drop from the 51,853 metric ton produced in 2022. This drop in production is a stark contrast to the efforts that were put into coffee production, processing, and sale of Kenyan coffee by the Office of the Deputy President, centering around smallholder farmers who were pooled into cooperatives to have a unified bargaining voice in the coffee markets.
Contribute significantly to the continued progress of our coffee value chain. The government of Kenya recognizes the potential of its coffee sector and looks to leverage on its reforms
which is a strategic response to ensure the long-term viability of our coffee industry. By enhancing transparency, promoting sustainable practices, and fostering innovation, we aim to create an enabling environment for growth and prosperity.
The number dip notwithstanding, pricing in the Nairobi Coffee Exchange has improved to be more competitive, even with international markets such as the New York Coffee Exchange from $199 per 50 kilo bag in October of last year to $212 per 50 kilo bag in January this year.
So as we gaze towards the horizon, our commitment remains unwavering in further modernizing and refining the coffee sector, alongside invigorating other pivotal value chains and fortifying regulatory reforms.
4 billion shillings has now been injected into the Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund, keeping the advance payment for farmers at 20 shillings to 80 shillings per kilo.
With only a 5% local consumption rate, now Kenya is looking towards Colombia as a peer reviewer, with their consumption at 40%, and the government is trying to organize smallholder farmers into cooperatives to ensure that the farmer is the greatest beneficiaries when coffee is being sold. Hibak Said for TV47 Nairobi.
Thank you, Hibak Said, for that. Kenyans witnessed the launch of the G7 strategy, which took place in Homa Bay County. The G7 being an association of the 7 female elected governors in Kenya. The group is aiming to increase the number of women in holding government positions in the country. Chaired by Governor of Kirinyaga County, Anne Waiguru, the leaders highlighted that the sole initiative of G7 is to empower women across social, political, and economic sectors and address gender disparities in senior leadership positions.
For the Women Governors Caucus, as you have heard, and a significant milestone in our pursuit for gender equity and inclusiveness in government. This strategy is a result of extensive consultations amongst us with a diverse range of stakeholders. We have been talking on what are the strategies we put together to increase the number of women governors from G7 now to G16. And we realized that if we just keep talking about increasing the number of women governors, we will not get there unless we come up with a clear and concise strategy. And the strategy number 1 was to support women governors who are already elected. The G7 strategy that we have come here for a pre-launch of is a celebration of how far we have come, but it's also the realization that if we do not pull together and put our efforts together and hold together as those who have already gotten there, we are likely to even start sliding backwards rather than moving forward. So the G7 is a realization that together we can achieve more.
To a story which a section of Kenyans have elicited quite some mixed reactions and a large number have welcomed, the Kikuu Council of Elders in Deia Sub-County expressed their support for the Kiambu High Court ruling regarding the traditional brew, Muratina. The elders emphasized that it's their responsibility to regulate the use of Muratina. Speaking during a Kikuyu ceremony called Mwaki in Deia, the elders said that they went to court to seek legal redress, asserting that Muratina is not an illicit brew. In a judgment by Abigail Mishila, she granted the petition, affirming that Muratina is not an illicit brew and the Kikuyu people have the freedom to prepare and consume it without restriction.
County chairman yeye iko na chama chake ambaye watakuwa wanakaa chini. Wale wanataka kupika wata apply kwa hawa watu kwa hiyo chama, ndio itashughulika kuona huyo mtu kama amefaa au hafai. Wakiona hafai hawatampatia barua, lakini akionekana anafaa, ako na tabia mzuri, atatii sheria ya Wakikuyu na ya serikali, huyu ako sawa.
Kulingana na ile njia wanatengeneza hiyo pombe,
lazima iwe na usafi. Hiyo pombe lazima ichanganywe kulingana na utaratibu. Kuchanganya kama ni lita 1 ama lita 2 ama lita 3, kuna vile unatakikana kutumia asali, miwa na maji ili iwe pombe halisi na pombe yenye haiwezi ikadhuru.
Tulienda kwa koti kwa sababu tulikuwa tunataka tutafsiriwe kama hii pombe ni haramu au sio pombe haramu, lakini kwa koti ikaona hii pombe yetu sio haramu, so tukafurahi sana, na ile mambo yote wanataka tutimize, tutatimiza, na pombe yetu tutapika na usafi na itakuwa pombe ya kuua watu. Naitwa Muhuri Kang'ethe kutoka Kikuu. Amaletwa makwa njitagwo Muhuri wa Kang'ethe mucera
mukoma wa Mwangi mwithaga wa bare ya Kimashu.
Njitagwo Muthamaki Thiong'o wa Gitau.
What are your thoughts about that? Send your comment on our SMS line or an X at George Maringa _ at TV47 News. We'd love to learn of your feedback regarding that story, especially that ruling. Mount Kenya University is still expanding its medical school as it eyes pharmaceutical research as a key growth area by making major investments in its College of Pharmaceutical Training. During the commissioning of a state-of-art laboratory in Mount Kenya University Nakuru campus, MKU Vice-Chancellor Professor Deogracius Jaganye noted that MKU has huge potential of training students in the field of pharmacy as the country is in dire need of pharmacists in the country. The state-of-the-art facility, according to the professor, has been equipped with all necessary equipment needed to train all local and international pharmacy students.
Leo tumekuja hapa Nakuru to open up a pharmacy laboratory, because we believe that it is got a huge potential to be able to train our students, because there's a big interest to be able to train the pharmacy students in the country. So this is a state-of-the-art facility. In Thika, I think we have reached a stage where we don't have enough room to expand. And coming to Nakuru, it gives us that flexibility to be able to expand our training for the future pharmacists in the country. We have got enough expertise to do the training, and of course we are going to also be expanding by making sure that as we expand to Nakuru, we are not depleting Thika. We're going to be bringing in other experts to do this particular training, and it also gives us the opportunity to undertake research in this particular field.
Commissioning these laboratories means that they are going to be regulated, and at the end of the day, we are going to start these pharmacy programs in Nakuru. Wakati huu, we have around 4,000 students, and by the end of this year, if at all we are admitting pharmacy students, we are targeting 6,000 students. Yeah. Kwenye tuko, hata ukiangalia standards za hizi laboratories, it is a very, very big standard, and therefore we are satisfied at the moment.
Thank you.
Let's bring you up to speed with a developing story right here. A sad story where 9 people have been confirmed dead after a 46-seater minibus lost control and rolled several times at Katangi area in Yatta this evening. Confirming the incident while receiving accident victims at Machakos Level 5 Hospital, Machakos County CEC for Health Daniel Yumbia confirmed that 8 souls perished on the spot, with 1 succumbing while receiving treatment and further 6 other passengers remain in critical condition at the hospital's ICU. As a result, the Machakos Level 5